host, Karen.
Hello, creators of chaos.
All right, so last week we talked about the case of Carrie Culberson that was located in Blanchester, Ohio. Today's case, we're going to be talking about Marcus Fiesel, and this happened in Union Township, about, 35 minutes from Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Very familiar area.
Yeah, we're returning to Ohio.
We are Eastgate area, Anderson area. So we're going to begin with Marcus. He was born on June 24th, 2003. He grew up a short life, but grew up at Middletown, Ohio, with his mother, Donna Trevino, and his two siblings, Michael and Peaches. Marcus was described as an awesome little guy, which enjoyed flowers, Bob the Builder, and Bubbles.
Well, who doesn't like Bob the Builder and Bubbles?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Sounds like a good life to me.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus was autistic, and he attended the school for special needs children. He was very active, and he liked to play all of the time, which his mother found very hard to cope with. And on occasion, the neighbor would say that she would see Donna, and she would be weeping from exhaustion.
Wow.
And if you've grown up or know somebody who's autistic, they are a full...
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, it is.
Sure.
Any kid is a full-time job,
Exactly.
But there's just a lot. They're in their own little world, and it's a lot to do.
There's extra things that need to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
But not everything was really well with Donna. Multiple calls were made to the police regarding domestic violence at the hands of her boyfriend.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. The officer who arrived at the house noticed that the house was infested with fleas and reeked of feces.
Ugh.
Yeah. To say the least, Marcus was not well cared for at his home. There were numerous incidents that demonstrated that he and his siblings were not closely monitored or cared for. Here are just a couple that have been documented. On September 29th, 2005, police observed a severe bruise on Marcus's left buttock. And then on April 22nd, 2006, Marcus was found wandering the streets and was almost hit by a car.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And then 4 months later, he crawled out of the second-story window and fell off the roof, resulting in stitches in his chin.
So my immediate response to that is, okay, why wasn't this child taken out of the home right away?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe not the first incident.
Well, kids have bumps and bruises, but...
Right, but the second one wandering the streets, child endangerment right there. So please tell me they took him out of the home. Or maybe not. I don't know.
So when they're checking out the house, they see that feces are on the carpet and the house was infested with fleas.
Ugh. Okay.
Yeah. So as a result, Donna told the police, "I don't know if I can take care of my children anymore," and it was becoming too much for her, and handed Marcus over to Butler County. Now, little side note is that she handed all the children over to them, but then she decided she could win back the other kids, but then didn't want Marcus. She gave her rights up to Marcus, yeah.
Because he had autism.
Because he was just too much for her, yeah.
No,
yeah.
Poor little guy.
So a private agency then steps in. They're called Lifeway for Youth, and they placed Marcus Fiesel in the care of foster parents Liz and David Carroll. And he was sent to live with them in Union Township, just outside of Cincinnati, like we said before. At the time, Lifeway for Youth was unknown of the situation between Liz and David and their mental status, which we're about to go into. They had mental health issues, and these kind of mental health issues would automatically disqualify them from being foster parents.
So were they not screened properly? What happened there?
Exactly. We'll get into that towards the end of the story with what happens, but this was an immediate placement, and they definitely slipped through the cracks, for sure.
So what did they do? Take this poor child out from bad to worse? I got a funny feeling that's where we're headed.
Yep. So not only that, but they had a woman named Amy Baker who was their live-in lover.
Wait,
so,
okay.
Well. Yeah. So Liz and David are married, and then they also have a third-party lover.
Why does Baker?
Mm-hmm.
So we covered a case last week with the Carrie Culberson case that Tracy Baker. Now I know Baker is a very prolific name.
It is, yeah.
But I wonder if there's a connection between those two, or if they're related somehow.
There's actually been some forms that says that he is related to her.
Oh,
that
wow.
she's his niece. I don't know that to be true, but it is, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Liz and David had 3 other children of their own, and then they have another foster child. Liz said that Marcus struggled at first, but then the kids made him feel welcomed and he loved it. Liz also ran a daycare from their home, and David helped out. David had issues holding down a job because he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and also took medication for it. He also had a prior domestic violence charge against him that was eventually dropped, but between that and the mental health issues, right there, that's going to tell you that screening was not done properly.
Exactly.
This would automatically disqualify them from being foster parents, especially a domestic violence. I want to keep this in mind throughout the whole story because these individuals should have never been able to be foster parents in the first place. So I want to do a little backstory on this trio. David and Liz were a typical on and off again couple. He didn't know if he wanted to be a foster parent, so he moved out for a while, but when he returned, he brought his girlfriend, Amy Baker.
Wow, okay.
Can you imagine, like, just having a fight and being like, this is too much for me, and then you come back and you're like,
you've got a girlfriend.
This is my girlfriend, she's going to be living with us.
She's going to live with us.
We're going to have sex whenever we want.
And you.
Yeah. Liz says she was fine with Amy living there because she could help raise all the kids, so she couldn't do it on her own. She was like, oh, this will be great, she can help me.
So that's her compromise.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So now we have Liz, Amy, and David, and they also had a 3-way relationship. Dave had Liz.
Did I hear you right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3-way relationship.
Okay.
So Dave had Liz as his wife and Amy as his lover, and they would sometimes have sexual relations all together. So truly, we're building a less than typical home for what you would consider a foster home at this point.
Right.
On August 15th, 2006, Liz Carroll collapsed from an apparent heart condition, resulting in low blood pressure at Julius Park in Hamilton County, right off of Clough Pike in Anderson. Do you know where that is?
I know exactly where that is. Yes.
Yeah. Very familiar area. These are definitely, we lived just a few miles down from Anderson, so very familiar area.
Right.
When medics responded, she told them that she had brought the 4 children to the park, and when she regained consciousness, only 3 were present. That Marcus was unaccounted for, and that he had autism.
Oh, no.
I remember this so well because at the time I was working at a salon coordinator in Anderson for a big salon and spa of Cincinnati, and I remember vividly talking to massage therapists and other hairdressers, and we actually decided to all go out on our lunch and after work to go look for this little boy when it was released.
I think I remember, I definitely remember that search.
Yeah.
I remember watching the news and seeing, countless people out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, helicopters, dogs,
looking for
people.
this child.
Yeah. Like we said, this resulted in a 3-day search for Marcus. Law enforcement used the helicopters, they used search dogs, and by the 3rd day they had stopped searching because they couldn't find any evidence. And they were talking to other people that were at the park, and no witnesses whatsoever remembered seeing Marcus in the park that day.
Oh, goodness.
Police start to take note, so let's just paint this scenario, okay? So you have a woman, it is summer day, okay? Takes all of these kids to the park, there are multiple parents, there are multiple moms, okay? She's around, she describes she's by the swing set, the kids were by the swing set, and she collapses. I can't think of a single time that I've ever been to a park with a child and say somebody scratched their knee. Immediately other parents help. They rally, right? So they pick up the child, let's go find your mom, whatever it is, they always rally. You're telling me that if a woman collapses, she's pushing a stroller and has 3 other kids with this child in the stroller, that no parent there is going to be like, call 911, get the kids, let's get them secure until the medics get here, until police gets here. That they're just going to be like, oh, well, let the 3-year-old run off by himself.
Yeah, it's not like this is Central Park in New York or, some big city.
This is
a small park, and people in this area are always willing to help one another, especially if someone were to go down in the park. Mm-hmm. I mean, hit the pavement, whatever.
Right.
Somebody's going to run over to them and try to assist.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. No one kept an eye on the kids. No one helped. No one tried to rally to help protect these kids or help in any way. That alone to me is truly unbelievable. Red flag.
That's a definite red flag.
Yeah. Liz says, I was at the park with him and 3 other kids. They were playing on the swings and the slides, and I had low blood pressure issues, and I collapsed. Sometime, Marcus wandered off or he was taken. I believe someone did take him, hopefully with good intentions. Before we keep going, though, she says, hopefully with good intentions. So first of all, her statement to the public, to the police, is I believe someone did take him, but they have good intentions. What mother does that?
Or hopefully with good intentions. I mean, if your child is taken, I don't care if it's, even a foster child.
You're not...
That child that you're responsible for, that is in your care. If somebody takes that child, you're not going to think, I hope they had good intentions.
Never. That doesn't even cross your mind. Absolutely not. Nobody does that.
Yeah, definite red flag number 2.
Absolutely. A week later, Liz was in tears in front of the news, having a conference, and she's pleading in front of the TV cameras to find her son. She said she thought somebody had taken him, for maybe a good reason. She said, I need help from the public to help me find my son. Marcus is my son. I know people think that foster care is temporary, but please return him to a hospital. Waking up every morning and not having him run to me is very difficult. I am closer to him than his birth mother.
Something is fishy.
After Liz's plea, several people volunteered again, go out and search the park surrounding neighborhoods for several days. This went on. And then, who is the guy in Cincinnati? Is it Joe Dieter? Who's the big prosecutor? Is it Joe Dieter? He said that they turned the town upside down. Like, they literally searched everywhere. No trace of Marcus. No person that was in the park could say, like, we saw them, we saw Marcus, we saw her collapse. Nobody. So this just happened out of nowhere. So the people start to grow suspicious of the Carrolls. As incidents like these are common, we have people like Susan Smith, who did the same thing, drowned her children in a car, and then pleaded for their safe return on TV.
And I was actually living in the state that when that happened, I remember that Susan Smith case very vividly, too. And no one could do, I mean, you couldn't believe a mother could do anything like that.
Exactly. And then we have, on the other side, we have Christopher Watts, who killed his wife, his pregnant wife, his 2 daughters, pleaded on TV. Yeah. Like, it's a common running theme that these people think that they're not going to get away with it. And a lot of times, those family members are even advised, do not go on TV, because even if you are innocent, people are going to pick you apart.
Right.
You know? And often, as we see here, is those people on TV are the perpetrators. And they get caught a lot of times, yeah. To the world, Liz was a crying mother for her children, but in reality, behind the cameras and the public, Liz, David, and Amy had a dark secret. And that secret was that Marcus was dead inside their home in a closet where they left him while attending their family reunion during all of this.
Oh my God. I remember this. Yeah. I remember this. Yeah. This poor kid. I mean, I'd actually forgotten that they did this first, that they put him in the closet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, because I was under the impression that they put him in the closet like for punishments and stuff like that. But actually, he was in the closet because he was dead.
He was in the well, actually, we're going to bring in more details to this case than actually I hadn't even known. Was that there are 2 scenarios of how Marcus actually died, and actually one fits a little bit better than him being in the closet. So we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
The police had interviewed Marcus's caseworker, and she confessed that she hadn't seen Marcus since August the 3rd. And actually, she hadn't seen him because Liz said that Marcus was sick and that he was asleep. Now, here's the part that chaps my ass, because this is your job, right? This is your job to check on these kids. And obviously, even if it's genuine and she's like, oh, he's sick, don't wake him up. This is your job.
Check on that child.
It is your job to visualize that child, to make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're being taken care of, even if it seems genuine, like they're sick. I don't care. That is your job. Visualize that child.
Yeah.
After David, Liz, and Amy all failed polygraphs, surprise, surprise, Liz still stated that her story was true. Like, she stuck to it. The police decided to make a deal with one of the 3. You want to take a stab at who?
It's got to be Amy Baker.
Of course it is. She steps up and she takes one for the team. I'll do it. I'll help you. On Friday, August 4th, Liz, David, and Amy drove to the family reunion in Williamstown, Kentucky. So we're backing up now, and we're going to give the full what happened.
Okay.
They took their own children. They take their dog and left Marcus in a closet where they bound him up with a blanket and packing tape and locked him in a closet with no food, no water, and didn't come back until Sunday.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's what I heard about the closet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's when they come back, they find that he's dead. So that is the backstory of that scenario. So then on August 29th, we're jumping forward now, so we know what happened to Marcus on August 4th when they leave for the reunion. So now Amy's helping detectives. She leads them to an abandoned property in Brown County where Marcus's remains were found. His remains were found on an 88-acre property in Brown County.
What is it about Brown County?
I don't know. I guess because it's so country. Like, I mean, Adams County is even more country, but Brown County is so country. Like, you go out far enough, that's where Mom and Pa eat you.
Well, I mean, if you if you look at a lot of the past cases, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone down in Brown County as far as murders and wow.
Yep. A man named Mike Cales or Cowles owned the property, and it was there that barely a handful of bone fragments and hairs in the chimney were found. What wasn't burnt was then thrown in the Ohio River.
Oh, God. I see. I remember hearing about them finding his burned remains, but
Well, if in science, like even though he's 3, right? So he's little. He's a little guy.
Mm-hmm.
You still have femur bones. You still have things that an incinerator needs to take care of, not just lighting fire to somebody.
Right.
Because Amy goes on to say, she states that they burned him over and over again, but there were still remains, and that's why they chose to dump him in the Ohio River.
How in God's name could any other human being take a child,
A 3-year-old.
a 3-year-old, innocent child, and even think for 1 second that they're trouble, for one. So much trouble, in fact, that they would bind him, put him in a closet, basically murder him, and then on top of that, take this little body and burn him over and over and over just to get rid of him so they could protect themselves.
And then that's still not enough. Let's dump him like a piece of
river.
trash in the river.
My God. That's a new kind of evil. A new kind of evil.
After Liz and David Carroll are arrested for the murder of their foster son, Marcus Fiesel, Liz stated that I didn't have any intentions of hurting him. Now, I don't buy this, right?
Of course not.
The only reason is that I do maybe buy this is that there's another situation that we're going to talk about and what may have really happened. That Liz may not have actually been involved, that this may have been Amy's doing. And like I said, a lot of people don't talk about this because it's not been, everybody wants to, it's Liz Carroll, she's put away, blah, blah, blah. There's actual statements and proof that this was Amy.
Okay.
Eventually, family members and friends of David and Liz said that David didn't like Marcus, that he was jealous of Marcus because he was always requiring the attention of Amy and Liz.
Oh, God. Are you
So now we have a
kidding me?
grown man jealous of a 3-year-old child, right?
Wow.
Eventually, Liz also confessed in front of a grand jury. She said that they left him there without food or water, but she didn't have any intentions of hurting him. He was dead when they came back on August the 6th.
How could you even say that?
How do you not have intentions when you tape somebody up?
Do you not think that is mental and is physical and emotional harm? I mean, the fear that this child had to feel, and being autistic on top of that.
Yeah.
Can you even imagine the level of fear and discomfort and just, oh God, I could go on and on.
Upon the investigation of the closet, it was stated that he was without food or water, but authorities believed that he was killed by the heat rather than dehydration or starvation, as temperatures in that closet reached 105 to 110 degrees. So basically like a hot car.
And wrapped up in a blanket.
And taped.
And oh my God.
The jury was made up of 9 women. Thank God, because women are going to...
Right, yeah.
I mean, men too, but obviously for
yeah,
women.
right.
And 4 men. It took them 4 to 6 hours to find Liz Carroll guilty of all charges on February 21st, 2007. She was sentenced to 54 years on February 22nd, 2007, and is currently serving in Maryville's prison. During the trial, the prosecutor held up a styrofoam cup, like what you would put coffee in. He held it up and he said, "What's left of Marcus Fiesel would fit into this cup. And who did it? She did it. And they say you wouldn't even treat a dog like that, but you know what? She wouldn't. She took her dog with her. She took her dog with her."
Wow. That was the nail in her coffin, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. After accepting a plea deal, David Carroll pleaded guilty to murder and gross abuse of a corpse, and the judge accepted the plea. David Carroll was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison.
Okay, 15 years to life.
Uh-huh.
So I've got a chance to get out in 15 years?
Yeah, because it's not sentenced as possibility of no parole. So he, at some point, I'm sure, with good behavior, I'm sure he'll go before a parole board. I don't know if he'll get it, but eventually, yeah.
I don't get that. They find this guy guilty. He obviously did it. He gross abuse of a corpse. They know they burned him. They had everything to do with his murder. And 15 years
To life.
to life. Maybe life.
Yeah. Question mark. 15 years to life, question mark. Because that's how the justice system works.
My blood is boiling.
Yeah. He is currently serving his time in Lucasville Maximum Security Prison in Ohio, which is, I want to do a case on that place. Did you ever hear about the raid that happened at Lucasville? Or not the raid, but the riot, where like 33 people were murdered?
No.
Okay, so we're going to do a case on it because not a cool story, but I didn't know about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There have also been reports that he was moved to Toledo at maximum security as well. So I'm not sure if he's currently in Lucasville. I know he was there at one point, or in Toledo. Either way, he's locked up. Here's the thing that will actually blow your mind. So we know that David and Carol are sentenced, but listen to this. Amy Baker, she confessed to helping dispose of Marcus's body in the Ohio River, confesses to burning it, and because she gave them all this information and led them, she gets immunity.
I had heard something where everything was dropped against her.
It was. Everything.
And people were just infuriated.
Everything was dropped, yep, because she helped them locate his remains and told him everything. She was their main witness in the trial.
Just saving her own skin, isn't she?
But what really happened to Marcus? In an interview from the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville, Liz speaks for the first time. She said, I want to tell the truth, I want it to come out, and I want everyone to know what really happened to her foster son. I just want to say that I'm sorry. I am. I have so much guilt. I'm really sorry. I carried so much guilt for that because I am guilty for lying to people, my family, and my kids. I lied to my kids. I wasn't there, first of all, when Marcus died, she said. When I left, he was alive.
What did you expect?
So wait a minute, she's not talking about when they left for the family reunion. Here we go.
Oh.
Liz states that she went to run errands in the morning, and when she returned home, her husband told her, Marcus is dead. I was going across the room to get the phone, and Amy pushed me across into the bathroom and said, I will kill your children if you call the police and tell them what really happened. Liz claimed that they were trying to figure out how they were going to come up with a story of how he went missing, who was going to be the one he went missing with. They considered saying they had lost him at Kings Island or that he had disappeared at a fair. And then eventually, she became the one who lost Marcus at Julius Park. She said, I blame myself for lies because my lies are what got me in everything. Even with Amy's threats, I still had the opportunity to tell the truth several times, but she did go on the stand and lie. She even had the nerve to smile at me and wear my clothes at my trial. Liz claimed that Amy went into the house after she was arrested and took her stuff, including her clothes.
Okay.
Have you heard this spin on this story?
No,
I hadn't either. Liz has since taken and passed a polygraph test. Remember the first one that she failed? She passed this one. Multiple polygraph tests of the actual events of what happened, and she passes them. She says, I would believe that this would be enough to prove to the police officers and the prosecutors that I didn't kill him, but the public wanted justice. She said, however, they still haven't gotten that justice.
Right.
The story that Liz told of how Marcus died was consistent with the version told by her husband, David. He goes on to say, what I really have a problem is that my wife wasn't even home when any of this occurred. And Amy went on the stand and said that my wife taped him up and we went on a family reunion. That's the problem I have, because that's not exactly what happened. That's not exactly what happened at all. Exactly what happened is, we left him. We left him and went to the family reunion, but he was already dead. Amy and I, we wanted to have sex. We got greedy. Amy said, take the kids outside and we'll put Marcus down for a nap. That was what she was supposed to be doing, was putting him down for a nap. Amy had taped him up and put him down in a blanket for a nap. However long goes by, they forget about him. So when Liz comes home, he runs down the stairs and says, he's dead, he's dead. And she's like, who's dead? He's like, she was even smiling at me because she didn't know. And then I said, Marcus is dead. So then she started freaking out and crying. And they run upstairs. And as soon as she turned the corner, she saw him. She dropped to her knees and she looked at me and screamed, what did you do? Like blaming me. I said, I didn't do this. She did it. Talking about Amy. And Amy says, I just forgot about him. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
He said, my wife then goes and immediately grabs the phone, like to call 911. Amy grabs it and pushes her and says, no, we can't. We can't call the cops. We can't call the cops. And Liz is like, I'm going to call an ambulance. I'm calling the ambulance. And Amy says, no, he's already dead. They can't do anything. Nobody can help. You're not going to call the cops. And Liz was like, we have to. So Amy grabbed the phone from her and they started getting into like a scuffle and an argument. Amy started pushing her and grabbed the phone out of her hand. she started saying, "You seen what happened to Marcus? That can happen to your kids too if anything else happens."
Oh, so basically
So she starts threatening her, like, if you call the cops, this can happen to your kids.
She's, again, covering her own butt, and wow.
He goes on to say, "I'm sorry. I apologize to the public that helped in the search. I'm very sorry for every bit of my actions. I apologize. That's what I want to say." Yeah, so what story do you believe more?
Well, honestly, it sounds like the second one.
Right?
But how did you know? How do you really know? I mean, Liz was very good about getting up there and please, help find my son.
Right, but she also passed a polygraph test saying that these were the real events that happened. Not that that's can be used in court, but she failed the first one because she was lying.
Right.
And then passes this one multiple times to the events of his actual death.
So, Amy Baker, where's she?
Oh, she's living her best life. She got sent to, I think, 2 years to prison time for drugs. So they made her serve it out in 2-month increments or 6-month increments, but she's out.
So she helped burn a child's body.
And dumping him in the river.
Got
immunity. And she may have actually been the real killer.
And got by with it.
She's living her own life.
Ludicrous. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember, and I've been actually on that very road, that the location where they burned his body. I've been down that road.
I have like 4-wheeled back there.
Yeah, I mean it's beautiful back there. I mean, the creek and then all the wooded areas and all that. It's such a nice area, country ride and all of that, and you just wouldn't imagine someone would take a poor little guy's body out there, and there's just nowhere that's safe, is there? When it comes to,
you can't even be a child and be safe.
It's such a shame. God.
And if she did do this, if that is the case, and she actually was the one that taped him up while they were having sex, and essentially suffocated him, because that's probably what would have happened in that scenario, was he got suffocated from the tape. She's living her best life, and 2 people are in prison literally for just trying to cover it up. They didn't kill him, if that's the truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
But even with the plea deal and all this kind of stuff and her immunity and blah blah blah, I cannot believe,
if that was the case and she still helped do all that, she still has immunity. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, are we just trying to solve the case as quick as we can? Were they trying to, all right, the only way we're going to find this child's body is by making this deal? I mean, you just don't know what discussions take place.
I do remember hearing rumors that, Kentucky was going to press charges on her for something else, and that was, their way to get her in prison. But I think it was just a drug charge, and I think she did 2 years, and maybe even less than that. I'm not 100%, but I know for a while, if not now, Liz Carroll had to be in solitary confinement for a long time from protection of the other women.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, baby killers.
But they don't do well. But again, I would really like to know if Amy Baker is related in any way, shape, or form to the Tracy Baker that was involved in the Carrie Culberson case we covered last week.
Does anybody out there know that? If you do, comment below, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Like I said, we had seen it on forums, but Baker is a very common name. But I will say that every Baker that I knew growing up, they were all related.
Yeah.
They all knew each other. They were all third cousin twice removed. You know how that goes.
Right, got it.
So the chimney that Marcus was burned in was demolished.
So the chimney, so there was an abandoned house or just a demolished house, you said?
Mm-hmm. So it was an abandoned property. There was a chimney left.
So they had to have known this place was there to take his body there. They've been back there before.
It's on 88 acres, so you don't just go up to it and be like, oh.
Yeah.
Unless it was visible, I don't know, but I've
been
been through there and I never saw that it was visible. I don't know if it was visible, but it was demolished, and they did turn it into a really beautiful memorial for him in a peaceful setting on April 21st, 2007. And then on June 24th, 2007, which would have been Marcus's 4th birthday, a bench was dedicated to him in the Hanlon Park of Georgetown. So that little park right there by Pizza Hut,
Mm-hmm.
You know, you sit there, there's a little bench there in his honor. And if Marcus was still with us right now, he would be 18 or 19 years old.
Oh.
Marcus Fiesel's death was a tragedy, and no child should have to suffer like this. His death raised many questions and doubts over the placement of foster care children, within the state of Ohio especially. The agency that gave Marcus Fiesel to Liz and David Carroll had its license revoked, and after Marcus's death, state legislators, foster care workers, and child advocates have recommended that 55 changes be made to Ohio's foster care system.
55 changes.
5, yes. That's a lot of changes.
That's a lot of flaws in the system.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have those changes been made? They advocated for it, but...
A lot of them have. And that was one of the reasons when I had been approached about being a foster parent, and the people were treating it like a short sale. It was an 11-year-old, and they were like, you know, got to do this now. And I was like, I don't have any of this. I have none of this. You don't know my background. You literally, this is word of mouth that I'm a good person. And it was from a client.
Right.
Who was a client of mine at the salon who recommended me. And they called me and wanted me to pick up that child that night. And I had not even been in the foster care system.
Wow.
Yeah. Treated it like a short sale in the house. And I was like,
This child was basically failed from the very beginning. I mean...
From the very beginning.
I mean, with the original, you know, mother and all of that, this poor little guy didn't have a chance.
3 years old.
Wow.
3 years old. So that is the case of Marcus Fiesel, guys. It's a sad one. He definitely deserved a lot more than life than that. And hopefully they made the necessary changes to the foster care system where stuff like this does not happen. I know that it was a private agency, and that makes a huge difference, but we got to start holding these people accountable. You know, if they're going to be in charge of these kids that need homes in a safe place, we need to be able to trust everybody involved. But that is today's case, guys. We want to thank you for coming back out to the Rage Room. This is episode number 7. So we've almost been 2 months at this, and it's gone by really well.
Yeah.
So pay attention to Facebook and the group and the page. There may be some issues with uploading over the next couple weeks, depending on how some schedules are going to work out. If you are close family or friends, you understand what I'm talking about. If not, just bear with us. We will get the podcast up. It's just going to depend on some schedules and health. So thank you again for coming back to the Rage Room. We appreciate your time, your love, your support. Please go on the podcast and rate and review us. It does help the momentum of the podcast. If you have not entered into the giveaway, please do so. We have not forgotten, and we still plan to do that. So make sure you enter into that giveaway so that you can get yourself some free money. Some free money.
Free money.
Who doesn't love free money? Anyway, we'll see you next week on the Rage Room, guys. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.